Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. It's a beautiful gray day, and I want to continue this very witty book that I got. It's called The Wisdom of Yorkshire, and man, it's got a lot of unique things in it, and so this is right up my alley, and I wanted to share with you. It's real small. I'm almost done with it. I got like a little teeny tiny bit more to go till I'm completely digested of it. And I wanted to go through the parts that I already read and highlight to you some of the things I found to be quite witty. Here we go. Things are the way they are because they were the way they were. To know one thing, you must know the opposite. That's quite true. That's why if you want to know evil, you have to learn to recognize it and understand it. A master of words can scope reality, for good or for evil. Yeah, I agree with that. You can definitely use language to construct certain aspects of reality. But not in the way that commits shirk. What I mean is narratives. The pleasure gained from something bad ending is often worth the something bad occurring. Mr. Moorsgrove from Yorkshire. So the pleasure gained from something bad ending is often worth the same bad occurring. Yeah. Sometimes something can come to an end, and that in and of itself is good, even if what started it was something that was not very fun to deal with. This one's a longer one. That's the paradox. The only time most people feel alive is when they're suffering. When something overwhelms their ordinary, careful armor, the naked child is flung out onto the world. That's why things that are worse to undergo are best to remember. But when that child gets buried away under their adaptive and protective shields, he becomes one of the walking dead, a monster. Ted Hughes, a writer-poet from West Yorkshire. What I liked about that one is we are very adaptive, and we do put up a protective barrier for survival. And so if you just become too adaptive, you become like a walking dead. Like this other book that I'm reading off camera is about Rikers prison, and a lot of the inmates say they had to become almost dead inside so that they could deal with the violence, the guards too, of the prisons. And I think a lot of us women who have gone to work and now are stay-at-home moms know what that feels like when you're at work, you hate it there, and then when you're out of there, you feel alive again. And this is a big funnel into alcoholism, where people become like a walking dead zombie because they have put up this adaptive protective shield within their mind. Marx called it alienation, and that's one thing I would agree with Marx. Certain jobs, if it's just not your passion and you're just not into it, it's just not going to be fun for you. It's not going to add to you. It's quite interesting, that particular quote. I must say so myself. He's one of those blokes who's thankful for something to whine and moan about, because he'd have bugger all to say if things were always fine and dandy. Louise Nurse from Hebden Bridge. Now that one really made me think about how some people whine not to fix, but to kind of take a load off their chest. And then there's others who seem to enjoy the spiral. Enjoy the, I'm a victim, I'm weak. You know, everyone is after me. Nothing's good. And then it goes further into like nihilism. Because cynics and nihilists can be entertaining and funny. But at the same time, you don't hear a lot of solutionary things coming out of their mouth. Right? And so, if you get around someone like that, I'd argue you should make your way elsewhere. Because they will start to wear you down. If the only thing someone has to say is negative, and you kind of don't help them steer the conversation to better shores, then you should not complain when they drag your mind down. I think you need a balance. You can't have your head in the clouds, nor can you wallow in the gallows. The next one here. To tell the truth, I honestly don't like myself. I bore the crap out of myself. I really do. James Crocker, musician and frontman from Sheffield. Now that one I thought was unique because it's self-deprecating, but it gets at how we can be bored with ourselves. So we have to kind of learn to be content with ourselves now, don't we? I bore myself, I really do. Learn to let go. That's what me mam always tried to instill in me after watching me nearly destroy me sin with booze and other stuff. Took me a long time to understand what she were on about. I know now, though. I bloody know now. Learn to let go, pal. Put that in your book. Man in the Pub, Sheffield. This one made me laugh because it has that English way of talking I always find entertaining. So you gotta learn to let some things go. This reminds me a lot of this content creator who had a theological debate. And he was getting trolled. And he could have just let it go. But for about 2 weeks, for hours upon hours, he's ranting about the person he debated. His most loyal fans are like saying we're tired of it. He screams and says F them and tells them to piss off. He's extremely vulgar. He started crying. Then he started screaming. Then he said he was going to quit YouTube. Then he said everybody has to pay him more money. And he's just mentally unhinged. And the more he spirals and the more people try to help him, the more he freaks out. And so he just learned to let the debate go because he asked for the debate. And he claims to be a comedian. And now he dipped his toes in the theological realm. He mocks people who like theology and philosophy. And then he can't handle the heat that came with it. And then he's calling everybody all these curse words and attacking his fans. And he just can't let it go. And then he's starting fights with other content creators. And he's kind of part of the attention economy, the negative attention economy types of content creators. And so, to me, somebody like that who just can't let it go and just goes on and like the way he repeats himself is satanic. And I'm not saying that. People say that word too lightly, but he repeats it to the point where, like, even if you're his fan, you want to reach to the computer and just shake him and be like, stop. Move on already. Like, it's insane. Like, you can complain for a few days, talk about the debate, and move on. I've never seen somebody go on and on and on and on about somebody who they didn't like after the debate. And he burns bridges like you wouldn't believe. And I'm not going to name the content creator because the last thing I want is for him to talk for weeks and weeks about me. He's extremely vulgar. I mean, extremely psychotic. And so I don't want none of that heat coming my way. But watching him, I learned, you need to let some things go. You just gotta process life and keep it flowing. The next one here. Only 2 things are certain in life. Death and the outcome of an England match when it goes to penalties. Matt Evans, manager from York. There's a lot of soccer jokes in here. I don't know, it must be something very English. Next one. I saw an old friend in a dream last night. It's the only place we meet now, but it's real to me. He told me I was dreaming. I said I know, it doesn't matter. You're here right now. Then I woke up. I'll see him again soon enough. That one's unique because it really goes at the dream world. And the dream world is pretty weird. And when you meet people who are super into dreams, they just come off as real creepy. We only live once. For the very lucky. And the very unlucky, this is probably enough. Mike, architect from Hull. I liked that one. Because if you are, like, very fortunate, mashallah, that's it for you. And if you're very unfortunate, you're like, I don't want to go back. I'm good. Right? I like that one because it's clever because it has the two extremes in it. English humor is very witty. They say, live every day as if it were your last. You'd be in a permanent state of panic. Felix, artist from Harrogate. That's so true. I say that though too. Like, enjoy every day as if it was your last, especially when I'm with my children. I think to myself, I need to enjoy every moment as I can because stability is impermanent and neither is peace. But then, it's true, like, if you actually thought the other flip side of that, you're gonna be in a state of panic because if it was your last, you'd be running around going nuts. Because if someone told us an asteroid is coming, we'd be like, ah! Like, you'd see looting, you'd see all kinds of weirdness going on. So that one to me was surprising. But in a good way. You don't have to be friends with death, but it's probably best to be on speaking terms before it arrives. Leslie, retired teacher from West Yorkshire. On speaking terms. Look, who thought of that? That's just so funny, man. Life is one contradiction after another. And if you can't find the humor in that, then you're going to struggle. Yeah, I mean, you gotta sometimes laugh at the absurdity that is life sometimes. Tragedy need not be a downer. That one was witty. Tragedy need not be a downer. So if a tragedy happens, comedic tragedies is what I thought of. In that, like, let's say you have a real nice dinner, and then it just goes to bananas after, like, somebody slaps somebody, it's just not going well. You know, don't be sad about that your dinner party didn't go well, it could just be a comedy, right? There's a lot of ways you could look at that one. Laughter is the last line of defense. If that breaks, you're really in trouble, mate. Leon, taxi driver from South Yorkshire. That's really true. If, laughter, when you're being, like, tossing it up with somebody and you said something a little bit edgy and they laugh, you're like, oh, thank goodness. But if they stop laughing and they're just staring at you, you're like, oops, I stepped on them toes. Went in a little too deep. That's why some people who are like, I'm a comedian, I can say what I want. I can do this because I'm a comedian and in the name of comedy I can say this, this, and that. And it's like, if the people have started to not find you funny and just find you purely psychotic, vulgar, or degenerate, now you're going to have people turning against you. Because you're no longer laughing, you're just nasty, vulgar, and bitter. Some people forget that. Saying nothing at the right time can give you more control of a confrontational situation than anything else. Elaine, dinner lady from Rotherham. This is true. I need to learn that. Because saying nothing is hard for a philosopher like myself. Sometimes I'm like, say it! And I'm like, no, don't say it. Say it! I think we all could struggle with that in some way. Where's everyone's patience gone these days? Jesus, can't people just get along? Wait their turn and have a bit of patience? And will somebody please get me a fucking drink? This one is funny because it ends with a punchline. I get it. He's telling everybody, be patient. And then he's like, please will somebody get me a drink? He's not being patient. He wants his drink now. I like that one. That's super clever. And it says, man in a Leeds pub after breaking up an argument at the bar. I guess in England they like pubs a lot. It's some type of bar. Maybe that's why when the English and the Irish came to America, they were a bunch of raving alcoholics. They just like, drinking too much, but they get their little witticisms out. But being around a lot of alcoholics, they never said anything as clever as this. They were usually just rambling about the past, pain, and just sitting there instigating arguments and just not being very wholesome people. So what do you think? I thought it was very witty. It's a great book. I'm going to keep this one after I'm done with it. Have some witty things to say at a dinner party. So if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com. Helps out the channel because I'm not monetized and I don't have a thanks button and a join button and super chats and all that. So if you like to help me to buy diapers, then consider joining the blog. Take care.